prime in this bill, Representative Honchovsky. We talked about the bill yesterday, and I'll mention what I want to mention right now because she's going to close for us. And I want to, first of all, thank the Stand With Parkland organization, Tony Montalto, the president, who is here, Tom Hoyer, who's the treasurer, and April Shuntrup, who's a board member. They all lost their children. Luke Hoyer was 15, Gina Montalto was 14, and Carmen Shuntrup was 16 years old. Members, this bill in front of you created some warriors in the school system in Broward County. Lori Alladef, who lost her daughter, Debbie Hickson, who lost her husband, as well as the Florida Board of Education member, Ryan Petty, who lost his daughter. And I want to thank them for taking a personal role in making our schools safer and better for all students. I also want to thank you, Mr. Speaker, for your leadership on this issue. Chair Lupus, for your friendship and leadership in early learning and elementary education. And Chair Latvala, for your trust in me and your genuine love for the families and students we lost that day. And then your education staff, especially Jennifer Guy Hudson, for your hard work throughout this process. Members, this bill goes a step further in making our schools safer. And we talked about it yesterday, but it's a privilege for me to be able to carry this.
Are there amendments?
None on the desk, Mr. Speaker.
Is there debate? Representative Latvala in debate.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Members, like most of y'all who are here, I remember exactly where I was at around 3 o'clock on February 14th, 2018, and that was sitting right over there in Representative Federhoff's seat, right next to Representative Rayburn when we got the news. And I remember very vividly right back there, then Representative Chevron Jones and Representative Moskowitz and our dear friend Representative Jacobs. And it's a day that I'll never forget, and it was a day that transformed my legislative career and the speakers and many others that were here. And it turned 17 families into lobbyists. It turned people that were business executives, principals, and airline pilots into school safety experts. So other families in Florida would never have to deal with what they had to deal with. And it was arguably the most preventable tragedy and most preventable mass shooting in the history of the United States. And it was a failure on, I'm not going to get into it, but it was a failure on multiple levels of the school system, the law enforcement, and so forth. But and as was mentioned, there was a young lady that died that day that should have been celebrating her 18th birthday. And her father has turned into a fierce advocate to make sure that people and fathers don't have to experience the pain that he has to deal with every day. And you know, a school safety bill should be something that we do every single year, and because there's always improvements that can be made. And the single most important thing that we should do in the education space is make sure that when parents hug and kiss their kids goodbye, that they sit in a classroom that's safe and they don't have to deal with a madman walking through a gate holding a rifle going and killing people, and like what happened that day. And they don't have to deal with their kids that are being locked out of a classroom sitting in the hallway that are literally sitting ducks while the coward school safety aide's running up the stairs saving himself, or the police officer hiding behind a tree. So I just want to thank Representative LaMarca for this bill, and also two other members that are very passionate about this issue, and that's Representative Daley and Honchovsky, and as was mentioned, Jen Guy Hudson for all of her hard work, who's one of our lawyers in the education silo. And I'm proud that we're doing a school safety bill this year, and I hope we do another one next year. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Wilhite.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, probably, arguably, the most hard day of my life, or time of any of my political career or my life, was the events of that day and the day after. Now, they have nothing to compare to the 17 families that their lives were changed that day. Nothing. And I've been in a few stressful situations in my career, but I can tell you, sitting in rooms with then Chair Representative Renner and I talking to these families and having them come here, and the debate that went on and the discussion we had, I didn't sleep, I didn't eat. There was just a weird feeling in this chamber. There was a weird feeling across our state or our nation. But what defines us is what we do after tragedy. And not 100% of everybody agreed with every aspect of what this body did. But members, we had to respond and we had to do the right thing. That was a 911 call to this state to wake up and start protecting our children in a better way, shape, or form. And we did, and we started, and we continue to do it. And so I thank the good representatives for bringing this bill forward, because there is nothing more sacred to me than dropping my kids off at school and picking them up at 4:05 in the afternoon and having them walk up and hug me. And 17 families weren't able to do it that day. And when things are preventable in what we do, it's shameful if we don't prevent those. But we started to, and we continue to, and we will continue to. But you know, I've tried to work in the first responder area, and I've tried to work in the mental health area, because things like this happen. And we need to continue to be diligent and to work on them. And members, this isn't a partisan issue. I actually don't know the party of any one member of those 17 families that day. When I met some of the families here, I didn't ask them. We didn't care. We cared about what we did, what we could do to help our kids and our families. And so, you know, Chair Ladval, you said about where you were. You know, I got a text from my cousin in Michigan that knew it before me, because we were busy and it was bustling in this room. And I looked back at Representative Moskowitz and Jacobs to a white pale face about what happened to them and what was happening. And members, I am just so proud of what we did and what we continue to do. And I encourage each and every one of these new members who are here. This is not an issue that we worry about anything other than the objective. And the objective is that those parents, when they pick their kids up at 4:05 like mine, they can hug them and love them for the rest of their life. And so, members, I absolutely appreciate the work that you're doing here. Representative Daley, you continue to do it. Representative Hunchusky, it drove you probably to this room. It's probably why you're here, and every one of us is driven here for a reason. You're driven here for the right reason, and you're going to do the right things to continue to do that, and I know each and every one of you members will. Speaker, I know this is a tough issue for you, and it was a tough issue for Speaker Oliva. You guys did the right thing. I said it then, and I'll say it again. Thank you for your leadership on this, and thank you for moving this legislature in the right direction to make sure that our kids and our families are safe in the future. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Daley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First and foremost, I want to thank Tony and April and Tom and all of the parents, all of the MSD families, because and regardless of where they are on the political spectrum, like Rep. Wilhite said, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because they have all taken unimaginable pain and grief and turned it into action. Whether it was Lori Alhadeff last year with Alyssa's Law, thank you, members who supported that. Whether it's the bill we're hearing today, or whether it's bills we're going to hear in the future, they continue to work and advocate and make sure that something like what happened on February 14th never happens to another family. There's not a day that goes by, members, and I know this is the same for Representative Hunchofsky, Representative LaMarca, and many others in this chamber. There's not a day that goes by that I don't think about February 14th. Maybe something random happens. The number 17 pops up on your phone. And it brings back that thought of where you were that day. That day, like then Mayor Hunchofsky, I was there. I was at my alma mater. And you can never imagine the unimaginable grief. It's like having your heart ripped out in an entire community because one person was able to go in and wreak havoc in that school. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you. I want to thank Speaker Oliva. I want to thank Speaker Corcoran, Chair Renner, Chair Latvala, so many others that in the wake of that tragedy turned around and made the enormous lift with the MSD Public Safety Act. Had I been in this body at that time, I would have certainly supported it. I want to thank those who did. I understand we can differ on some aspects of it, but that was an enormous lift. But it showed the people of this state, it showed the people of my community, of our community, Representative Hunchofsky, that this state was serious about doing something in the wake of that tragedy. But members, we're not done. Like Chair Latvala said, there should be a school safety bill every single year because we can always make it better. We can always do better. And that's exactly what this bill does. This is a good bill. It is a good bill, members, and I know every single one of you is going to vote up on it because it is too important to this state, it is too important to our families and to our kids. Chair Latvala, I want to give you a special shout out because I got to tell you, there was about 4 weeks ago, where I got a message and Chair Latvala had reached out and said, hey, I want to see you, I want to see Rep. Hunchofsky, I want to see Rep. LaMarca, and Jennifer Guy, who's amazing. She's phenomenal. Staff in this building, phenomenal. And we all came together, we said, we want to sit down, we want to have a conversation, we want to walk through the bill line by line. Every question was answered, every point was taken, every suggestion was considered, and then added. Members, that's what this process is supposed to be about. That is good policy. That is good bipartisan policy. That's what this bill is. Representative LaMarca, thank you. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for including us. Just like Chair Latvala, your willingness to work with us because this isn't a partisan issue, members. It's too important to this state and to our families. I know everybody's going to vote up on this bill, but that's not enough. I want you to go back and I want you to talk about it. I want you to talk about it to your communities. I want to talk about it to your colleagues. I want you to talk about it to the folks on the other end of this building because there should be a school safety bill every single year because we can always do better. Thank you, members. Please vote up. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative LaMarca, you recognized to close on your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Representative Daley, for that good amendment yesterday. I want to say something, and then I'm going to tell you why my friend here is going to close. When I served on the county commission in Broward County, I was the sole Republican. My friends, and I don't usually use the term, but in the back rows, you've got a strong minority. I was one, and I was the minority leader at the time. I was the only one. But I would tell you that when the tragic day at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport happened, and our incapable sheriff didn't do the right thing, and we had that tragedy. And then we came back, and unfortunately, it reoccurred on February 14th, 2018. I did the same thing at both incidents. I didn't rush towards the news coverage to stand next to the mayor, or stand next to the sheriff, or stand next to the school board members. Members, it wasn't because I didn't care, but it wasn't my place. My place was to govern and try to make things better over in my side of town, and it's not far from Parkland. It's just due east. And what I did is, at the right time, I had the opportunity to have Mr. Schachter tear me apart for a broken communication system. I had the opportunity to meet Ryan Petty and many more of the parents, and sometimes they would be very intense about what we needed to do to fix it, but I understood where they're coming from. I didn't run out there that day because I knew there was good leadership there and I could do it from somewhere else. So I'm not going to run into this close. I'm going to give it to my friend Representative Hunchofsky, and I'm going to ask you to tell us what you think.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for your indulgence on this. The best policy is personal. Each one of us is coming here with our own personal experiences that drives us to bring policy forth to make lives better. I remember pretty much every moment after 2:15 on February 14th. It was devastating what these families went through. No family at school, no family anywhere should have to go through. As Representative LaMarca was talking about, it wasn't about being in front of the camera. That's where the show goes on. But where are we when it's time to do the work? And it's hard work. I remember driving up here to be at a Rules Committee meeting in the Senate to thank all of those who showed the political courage to do what everybody on every side of the aisle was telling them not to do, and that was to support the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Public Safety Act. So when we talk about what goes on in our world today, I think we miss sometimes the people in the process. The people who are here today, each one of us bringing our personal experiences. And we have an opportunity. It's on moments like these, it's on moments like with Representative Grall's bill, where we show the best part of this process and the best part of who we are. And that while politics does enter this process, at the core of it, it is about the people and our personal experiences, the time we take to hear from each other, the time we take to hear from our residents back home and bring their stories here into this chamber. I want to thank every single member who supported this public safety back in 2018 when it was not a popular thing to do, when it took that political courage and putting people first. And I want to thank everyone who has remembered that day and carried those memories through to make a difference so that we can even be here speaking today. Chair Latvala, you have a heart of gold. And you connect with people and you have a passion for this like none other. And I want to thank you for that. Speaker Sprowls, I want to thank you for your leadership. You bring a humanity to this process, giving us a voice to share our stories. And I want to thank, I'm not going to mention any more names because I know I'll forget all the people, but I want you to know what we do here doesn't get forgotten in moments like this. Those who you've made their lives better and safer, they don't ever forget that. And I think sometimes we forget that people are watching us. They're watching what we're doing in these moments. I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge my friends, the parents, the ones who lost their spouses. It's been incredible to watch the advocacy that's come out of this. But there's not a day that goes by that I don't wish I could go back, and it would always be February 13th, 2018. So, members, thank you very much for your support of this bill. Thank you very much for being part of this process and making sure that we do recognize, even in the end of session where things get hectic and tempers might not be where we would like them to be, that at the core of all of this is our personal stories and the people, and we're here to make the policy to make their lives better. And with that, I close.
Members, the question now occurs on final passage of CS for House Bill 7035. The clerk will unlock the machine and members will proceed to vote. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? The clerk will lock the machine and announce the vote.
117 yeas, 0 nays, Mr. Speaker.
Show the bill passes. Representative Hopchowski, members, one of the heroes back then when we had Parkland here in this chamber was our Speaker Pro Tem, who presided from this rostrum for days on end during that Parkland tragedy. She joins us here today. Please welcome back to the Florida House the former Speaker Pro Tem and current Lieutenant Governor of the great state of Florida, Jeanette Nunez. Read the next bill.
By Education and Employment Committee and Representative Busada Cabrera, CS for House Bill 1159, a bill to be entitled an act relating to educator preparation and certification.
Representative Busada Cabrera, you recognized to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is the educator preparation